Welcome to episode 66 of the Girl About the Globe podcast. For this episode, I hope to inspire you by talking about solo travel and why you should do it. I also share my personal story of how I got started solo traveling. If you're unsure if you can do it, or if you just need a little bit of empowerment to get on the road, then this episode is for you. Stay tuned. Welcome to Girl About the Globe, a podcast for you, the solo female traveller, empowering women to travel solo with maximum adventure, minimum impact. More than 20 years ago, I took my first solo journey, and since then I have pushed boundaries, faced my fears and overcome challenges that I now realise were meant to make me grow. And although I don't profess to getting it all right, I am determined to not let others make the same mistakes I did and help them on their solo journey. As an unconventional 40-something divorcee, life to me is one big adventure, and I guess you could say I'm a risk taker. I'm not new to travelling. Having travelled extensively in my 20s as a solo woman, I've spent my youthful years living in Australia, working in a home in Guernsey, as a chalet girl in France, and a cocktail waitress on a cruise ship. I was constantly moving around until I reached the age of 33 and decided it was time that I settled down. So I got married. I spent 3 years living in my marital home, working a 9-to-5 job, but as each day passed, I became more and more unhappy. The pressure to have a family was too much, so at the age of 36, I left my job and my marital home and flew to an ashram in India, feeling the need to reconnect with who I was. I could no longer just settle for a mediocre life that society had told me to live. My life was happening without me, and I had to find it. Now, a happy divorcee, I have stepped into who I'm meant to be. Some people just aren't meant to lead a conventional life, and it's okay that I'm one of them. I've been lucky enough to have travelled to more than 131 countries, and 100 of these alone. And I've never let being solo stop me from doing anything. I've taught English to Buddhist nuns, I've starred in a Thai soap opera, and I've survived quicksand. I've challenged my fears both emotionally and physically, and had so many adventures along the way. I've honestly experienced things I never would have had the chance to do if I hadn't have been travelling alone. But it hasn't all been a bed of roses. There are times that I'd rather forget, but it all adds to the experience, and each time that I've travelled, I've learned more and more about the world and myself at the same time. Facing your fears, your insecurities, and coping with moments of loneliness aren't easy, but you can do it, and you can travel solo. Everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. Georgia Dear. It may seem like a scary concept, but travelling solo is actually on the rise for women, and there has never been a better time to just get up and do it. If your friends are all coupled up, or your partner hates flying, there's absolutely nothing to stop you from travelling alone. Travelling solo really does broaden the mind and allow you to live your life day by day, enjoying each moment without having to worry about the next. It allows you moments of solitude to just be, and the feelings of anticipation and excitement as you enter a country for the first time never ceases to amaze. So why go solo? One of the biggest reasons that women travel solo is because they enjoy time by themselves. Others because they have decided to be brave. They want to follow their own schedule and meet other people as they do it. Travelling solo isn't just about the external journey, getting from A to B. It's also a voyage of personal discovery. You really get to know yourself inside out when you're alone in the middle of nowhere with no one else except you to figure things out. You find out what really makes you tick. You overcome your fears and you discover what truly makes you happy as you spend hours contemplating life on the road. Travelling is food for the soul, and it allows you to get back in touch with who you are, no matter what stage of life you are at. It puts everything into perspective and makes you appreciate the smaller things in life, such as hot water. You'll soon realise what you can live without and how many pairs of shoes you really need. It teaches you to be self-sufficient and to look after number one. You'll become so resourceful that you will even amaze yourself. You'll soon realise what is important and what isn't, and you'll come back with a whole new perspective on the world, with more meaningful relationships and possibly even a few romantic ones. Travel really is ageless, no matter how old you think you are, and it provides you with an education about the world that you would never discover from textbooks. You learn more about the country's history and traditions and immerse yourself within local cultures. The more you learn, the more you'll start to see the world in a completely different light to the image that is portrayed. You'll soon break down any barriers you ever had about talking to random strangers. Travellers are one big community, and you'll be surprised at how easy it is to make new friends. Even if you're an introvert, travel brings you out of your comfort zone. You'll find yourself relating to people from all different backgrounds, cultures, ages, and building up your own couch surfing network of people around the world. So do you need to be the most confident person to travel? Absolutely not. Travellers come in a variety of shapes and sizes. Shy, funny, loud, or just odd. The best thing about travelling alone is that you get the chance to start over. You can define yourself. You can be who you want to be, and nobody is any the wiser. If you leave a shy wallflower, you're guaranteed to come back with more self-confidence than you ever thought you had, and you'll be ready to take on the world again and again. You'll discover the beauty of being comfortable in your own skin, and even that by itself is priceless. You'll soon be pushing those boundaries, trying new activities, and staying in places that you never thought you would. And the best part? You'll be so flexible travelling solo that you can change your plans at the last minute, stay longer if you want to, or go on a mini adventure with the group of girls that you met the previous evening. You really have the freedom to do whatever you want. In fact, travelling solo is just so awesome that once you've tried it, you'll wonder why you never did it sooner. What if you've never travelled before? Travelling alone to a country for the first time may seem a little daunting, but the reality is that it really isn't as frightening as you may think. Many people choose to travel solo for a variety of reasons, but the biggest one has to be for the freedom of being able to go wherever they want and do whatever they choose. Maybe you've been thinking about it for a while and just need that extra push to do it. Here are a few reasons for you to take that plunge. You feel like you're stuck in a rut. You have a friend abroad who keeps telling you to come and visit them. You've just been made redundant or lost your job. You want to see the 7 wonders of the world. You've received a windfall and prefer to spend it on creating new memories. You've just split from your partner or husband. You want to follow the sun around the world and escape the cold winter. There are so many different reasons, so grab that opportunity and seize the day. The hardest thing, honestly, about solo travel is making the decision to do it. Not sure if you could do it? Neither was I. So at the age of 25, I persuaded a friend to come with me. Not that she needed much persuasion. We spent 8 months planning our year-long trip while I patiently waited for her to save up the funds to come with me. After what seemed like a lifetime, but surely it was better to put my dreams on hold for 8 months than go it alone. We left the UK and spent 9 weeks together, travelling through Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore and Bali before our ultimate destination, Australia. It was when we arrived in Oz that I realised I couldn't do it anymore. I knew I had to spend a night on my own to see how I would feel. So for one night we parted company. After 9 weeks of being so tied to somebody else and feeling like I wasn't able to breathe, I finally felt free. I made my decision. After a very painful conversation, I was finally travelling solo. You won't survive by yourself, I was told as I called home, and I nearly believed them. Who was I really kidding? Stuck to the other side of the world from everything I knew with just myself for company? Could I really do it? I spent the next 3 days crying, wondering what on earth I'd done, before a ginger Mancunian and a hippie called Star invited me on a road trip with them. From that point on, I had so many different adventures that I couldn't begin to relay all the stories. I grew as a person and I've never looked back. But for me, travelling solo doesn't always come easy. In my 20s, I used to suffer from panic attacks. Even now in my 40s, I get occasional bouts of social anxiety where I want to hide from the world. The thought of even going outside terrifies me sometimes, but I force myself to get out, to eat in restaurants alone and get that next night bus, knowing that I won't let this beat me and stop me from my biggest passion, travelling. But sometimes it's not easy. I've spent the past 24 years on and off, living, working and travelling all over the world. I've volunteered, taught English, worked as a chambermaid in the Alps and on a cruise ship, and I've had the most amazing time. All it takes is that first step and the belief that you can do it. I've now been lucky enough to have travelled to more than 131 countries and 100 of these solo. Yet with every trip, I still get that mix of anticipation, that excitement and the fear before embarking on another journey by myself. Before I went to Asia, I was petrified for weeks. I couldn't speak Chinese, Mongolian, or Nepalese. What if something went wrong and I was stranded with no money and no way of communicating? How would I cope? It's natural to have anxiety, and when it hits you, it can make you doubt your abilities as a traveller. But it does get easier. The thought of travelling solo can be daunting, but once you overcome that fear, it is honestly one of the most rewarding things you will ever do. Remember my Australia trip? Well, after travelling around Australia for 9 months, I plucked up the courage to travel back to the UK, through Vietnam, Cambodia and Laos. It was on my last night before flying home, after a whole year of being away, that I still recall those feelings as I sat outside a bar in Vientiane. That sense of achievement that I, little old me from a small town in England, had done it. I'd proved to everyone that I could travel alone across the world and survive. But more importantly, I'd proved it to myself. I knew that if I could achieve that, I could achieve anything. I travel solo because I have the freedom to go where I want, to meet amazing people and spend hours on buses reflecting on my life. Travel has allowed me to grow and be comfortable in my own company. The biggest lesson for me was finding out that I'm actually a tough cookie, even if I may not look it. I know that I have the inner strength and the resourcefulness to get myself out of any tricky situation, and if I'm still doing it at 40-something, then anyone can.
Thanks for listening to this episode. I really hope I've inspired you to get out there and explore the world alone and not let being solo stop you from living the life that you want to live. If I have inspired you, there is so much information on the Girl About the Globe website, and also it would be amazing if you could leave a review. And that's it, and I will see you next week.
Thanks for listening to our Girl About the Globe podcast, making solo travel easier for you. Find everything that you need for your solo travels at girlabouttheglobe.com, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.